Let's write the formula down, like get some notes out. The quadratic formula, you might have seen it before from Algebra 1. It goes x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It's a big formula. That's the quadratic formula. Okay, so that big thing, if you can memorize that, you're going to use that if you go to pre-calc, if you go to calculus, if you go to college algebra. You use this formula for other math classes too. So if you're trying to memorize this, I've done like a song in the past to remember it. I don't know if I can sing that well today. I think I kind of have a cold, but it was like, when I learned it, it was like x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It's like, I don't know, there's different ways to, you got to try to memorize it somehow. There was another song I heard that just went like, negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now you know the quadratic formula. It was something like that. So if you can like try to memorize this thing, it'll help you when you have to use it. Because you're supposed to know that formula. It comes up on the ACT test. A lot of you will take the ACT and go to college. So this part of the formula, I'll highlight it. That part of the formula that I've highlighted, that part's called the discriminant. Just the part in yellow, just the part that goes b squared minus 4ac. And sometimes they ask you just to find the discriminant part on the assignment. They say, tell us what you got for the discriminant. Sometimes you don't even have to do the entire formula. Sometimes they just want the answer for the discriminant part in yellow. Yeah, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Yep, so it's like, now, what are these A, B, C letters? Well, it goes off of when you're working on an equation. We've been working on equations that have x squared in them. We've been working on these quadratic equations. So the A, B, C comes from like an equation they give you. Like it'll have like, maybe it'll say 2x squared, so then the A number will be a 2. And then you'll have to know what the B number is so you can plug it into this formula. And the C is a number at the end of an equation. You have to have an equation like this so that you can know what A is and B and C, and you'll be able to use it in the formula. So let's try one. So yeah, your equation, they'll give you an equation and you have to be able to figure out what A, B, and C are so you can use the formula. So let's try one. Like let's say I gave you an equation that said, find the value of the discriminant. So I'm not going to have to even do the whole formula this time. I'm just going to have to do the yellow part. Find the value of the discriminant. Let's say I gave you a problem that said x squared minus 6x plus 10 equals 0. Okay, so in this problem, in the front of the problem, it just says x squared. Isn't that 1x squared? I mean, if you don't see a number in front of something, isn't it 1, like 1x squared? So when I look at this, I think A equals 1. I think the first thing is the A number is 1. What's B? Yeah, b is this second number in the problem. It's negative 6. You have to use the negative too. It has a negative 6. And c is 10. Yeah, so you have to know like how to find a, b, c from this. You know, like when you have an equation, you have to know what a, b, c are. Yeah, so now let's see if we can do this discriminant thing. The discriminant thing is b squared minus 4ac. Do you think we could do that part? The discriminant. So what should I put for b squared? What number should I use? Good job. Negative 6 squared minus 4, and then that's like times. It says 4ac, that's 4 times a times c. So a is 1, so it's 4 times 1, and then c is 10. So it's going to be like 4 times 1 times 10 here. Okay, negative 6 squared. See how I put parentheses around it? You need to do parentheses around it when you're going to type it on a calculator. If you're going to do negative 6 squared, you need parentheses around it. Because that's 36. And then minus 4 times 1 times 10. What's 4 times 1 times 10? 40, good job. So 36 minus 40. So 36 minus 40. Okay, what would that be? Negative 4. All right. So on your assignment, they're going to have you find the value of discriminant, which we just did, and then they're going to have you, let's see if I get the wording right. They're going to have you tell the number of real roots, I think they say, on the assignment. Like on Alex today, it's going to be a quadratic formula assignment. Let me look it up real quick, because sometimes I like to know like how they ask it. You know, sometimes they ask things in a different way. So let's see. Yeah, tell the number of real roots. Okay, well, 4, we got a negative 4. If you look at this formula up here, we did this discriminant part. We got the answer, we got negative 4, so we're doing good. We got the discriminant, it's negative 4. But if you look up here in this formula, that would have been like in a square root. See that? It's in like a square root of all that stuff. So do you know what square root of negative 4 is? Okay, it's negative. Can you do square root of negative 4 on a calculator? Nope, you can't. What happens? I can't do square root of negative 4. This is error. Do you remember what we talked about with negatives? Somebody said it. Yeah, like the square root of 4 is 2, but it would be, the negative would be an I. So I'm getting like, if you get a negative number, that means there's 2 imaginary answers. Why is it 2? Because it's plus or minus the square root. Like the answer would be like something plus 2i and something minus 2i. Like it gives you 2 imaginary answers. So they wanted to tell the number of real roots. There are 0 real roots. There's no real roots. Since I'm getting a negative, that's telling me I'm going to get imaginary answers. So I'm getting no real roots. Tell the number of real roots, none. None. These are that'd be imaginary. When you take a square root of negative 4, you get imaginary I. So you're going to have to like work this out and think like, what kind of answer am I going to get? Okay, so let's try another one. Let's see, I got another one here. Let's say you had one that went x squared minus 6x plus 8 equals 0. And again, I'm going to have you find the discriminant. And then tell the number of real roots. Okay, so this discriminant thing again is b squared minus 4ac. And again, I could kind of like highlight that. That's this discriminant thing. Okay, so in this problem, we need to know what's a. 1, good job, it's 1x squared. What's b? -6. And what's c? 8. Okay, so it's just different numbers this time. So this time if we do b squared, that'd be -6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 8. Okay, so that'd be 36 minus 32. 36 minus 32. Okay, this time I got a positive 4. So if you think about it, the big formula way up here at the top has like square root of all that stuff. So square root of 4. Square root of 4 is just 2. Is that a real answer? Yeah, those are real roots. And this formula has this plus or minus, so that implies you're going to have to do something plus this and something minus that. So that means you're going to have 2 real answers. Since you're getting a positive number, so since that's a positive number in there, positive number, so there's 2 real roots. 2 real answers. So if you get a negative number in there, you end up with these imaginary answers, like no real roots, you end up with 2 imaginary answers. But if you get a positive number for the discriminant, then you end up with real answers. Kind of get it? I know it's kind of weird. What if you did this formula? What if you did this b squared minus 4ac thing? Again, the discriminant. And what if you did the math and got 0? Okay, what if you did all this work, did the discriminant, and you got 0? Well, then it would be, again, it would be like, up at the top, it would be like something plus 0. Square root of 0 is 0. And then it would be something minus 0. If you get 0 for the answer for b squared minus 4ac, then you just get 1 real solution. Instead of 2 real roots. Only 1 real root. 1 real solution or 1 real root. The word solution could be called root. You know, that's why we use the word root. Root means solution. So this has 2 real answers. This has 1 real answer. The one up here had 0 real answers. Yeah, so if you do the b squared minus 4ac, if it comes out to 0, you're only going to get one real solution. We'll try one of those because, you know, I just take my word for it. I just, you know, just to save time, we'll try one so you see how that works out. Okay, so let's see what we got here. All right, so now let's go ahead and do the entire formula, you know. So knowing the discriminant part, though, helps you, so you know how to do it. We're going to try the entire quadratic formula now. So I'm going to give you a problem to try. Let's try -5x squared plus 1 equals 6 minus 10x. Okay, so you're supposed to know what like A, B, and C are to do this quadratic formula. I gave you a problem, but does the problem I gave you look like this? Do you think I could get the problem to kind of look like that, kind of in this order, and have just on this side equals 0 instead of this big mess, instead of stuff on both sides? Do you think you could move things around and get the problem to look like what's in the box at the top? Yeah, you can. It's just going to be a matter of moving stuff. So that's what you need to do, because you can't do the quadratic formula unless you know what A, B, and C are. So it has to have 0 on one side. Yeah, you have to have everything together. So I think I need to minus 6. Bring that over here. Okay, so I got negative 5x squared. 1 minus 6 is negative 5. I need to add this 10x and bring it over here. So you just gotta move stuff. So I got a negative 5x squared. I want it in this order too, so I think I want to write plus 10x next. And then the plain number, the minus 5. See what I did there? The order you put it in has to be in this order. It has to be something x squared, then something x, then a number equals 0. Now I think I know what A, B, and C are. Now I know what A is, what B is, and what C is. What's A? Yep. A is negative 5. What's B? 10. What's C? That's also negative 5. Okay, so the quadratic formula, I want to write it again on this page so we don't have to keep flipping back and forth. The quadratic formula goes x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You gotta know this formula. Try to memorize it. So now we're going to use this big formula on this problem. We're going to use this entire formula. Have you ever done that formula before in Algebra 1? Did your Algebra 1 teacher have you do it? You're supposed to kind of learn it at the end of Algebra 1. So I don't know if you remember that or not. So negative b, see, it's like opposite. Like if it says minus b, that means like put the opposite of what b is. B is 10, so it'll be like negative 10. It'll start off. So x equals negative 10 plus or minus square root. Okay, then you have to do 10 squared minus 4 times a. A is negative 5, and c is negative 5. Then the whole thing over, all over 2 times a. So I'm putting in the a, b, c numbers into that formula. So x equals negative 10 plus or minus square root. Let's do this why do we do the discriminant first? We're going to actually work on it now again. If you can figure out that part I highlighted in yellow, that's the hardest part of this formula. So get a calculator and do the math, like figure out what's 10 squared. See, 10 squared is 100, isn't it? And then figure out what negative 4 times negative 5 times negative 5 is. There's a minus in front of the 4. That minus is with the 4, minus 5, and minus 5. You got to times those. You have times negative 4 and a negative 5 and a negative 5 together. So you can type it in your calculator. Oh, that's 100. If you do this whole thing, you could even actually do the whole thing on your calculator. 10 squared minus 4 times parentheses negative 5, and then another parenthesis, then negative 5. So you could like type it in. I got 100 minus 100, which is 0. See, I did the math on this part in yellow. That's the hardest part of the whole thing, if you can do the math on this part in yellow. And then the bottom is 2a, so 2 times a, that'd be negative 10. Okay, so I'm getting x equals negative 10 plus or minus square root of 0 over negative 10. What's the square root of 0? 0. So on the top, I'm getting like negative 10 plus or minus 0. This is important, this plus or minus sign. So you got to now, this means there's this implies there's like two things you have to do. You have to take negative 10 plus 0 and do the math, and then divide your answer by negative 10, and you have to do negative 10 minus 0, and then divide by negative 10. This plus or minus thing, you guys, plus and minus, it means there's like two ways to do this problem. Negative 10 plus 0. Well, what's negative 10 plus 0? Negative 10, and then divide by negative 10, what do you get? Okay, you get 1. What's negative 10 minus 0? That's still negative 10, then divide by negative 10. Oh, I got 1. I got 1 both times. So x equals 1. I got one real answer. That's why there's only one answer, because when you do plus 0, you get the same answer as when you do minus 0. That's why there's only one real answer. Yeah, I got x equals 1 both times. So that's why we said over here, when you get a 0 inside of there, it's only one real answer, because plus and minus 0 gives you the same thing. So it's kind of tough, I know. They take a while. They take a little bit to go through. Okay, let's try one more. Okay, one more, and then we'll be done with notes. Okay, so that one worked out good. Okay, let's try one more. Let's try 5x squared equals 8x minus 13. Okay, so again, when you start the problem out, it should be kind of like this, you guys. It should say all this stuff equals 0. So I'm giving you this problem. I don't want to have the 8x and the 13 over here. I want everything on the same side. So you have to minus 8x and bring it over. So you have 5x squared minus 8x. And this 13, you're going to have to plus 13. Plus 13 equals 0. You don't want these things on this side. You have to move them by add or subtract. Move them over. Okay, so what's a equal? What does a equal? 5. What's b? Negative 8. What's c? 13. Okay, so now I write my formula. So quadratic formula, x equals, it's supposed to be, the formula says negative b, or think like opposite of b. So my b number is negative 8. It'll actually make it like positive 8, because the formula says negative b plus or minus. So just switch the sign to positive 8 plus or minus square root of b squared. So take negative 8 squared minus 4 times 5 times c 13. All over 2 times 5, 2a. Again, do this part first. This part, I'm highlighting it in yellow. That's that discriminant thing. If you can figure out the square root thing, then it's not so bad, you guys. And the bottom is 2 times 5, which is 10, so I know it's going to be all over 10. So get a calculator and figure out this part, this big messy part. The square root part's the hardest part. So I get a calculator and type in negative 8 squared minus 4 times 5 times 13. If you just get a calculator and punch the part in yellow in your calculator, it's not so bad. So I did the part in my calculator. I did all this. I got negative 196. I did all the part in yellow. And I got negative 196. Okay, so I'm getting x equals 8 plus or minus. What happens when you get square roots of negative numbers? Yeah, there's no real roots. It's like one of those imaginary things. You have to put I. It's going to be something with an I. Do you know what square root of 196 is? Like if it wouldn't have said negative. Do you know what square root of 196 is?
14.
Yeah, so if you just get a calculator out and figure out square root of 196, it is 14, so it'll be 14I. The negative part is the I thing, the imaginary, and then it's all over 10. See, it's imaginary answers. They're weird, but you can still like deal with it. Okay, last thing. 8 and 14 and 10, you can reduce them because they're all even numbers. For 8 and 14 and 10, they're all even numbers. So can't we divide everything by 2? Reduce fractions. Like if you had 8 over 10, you would reduce that. 8 over 10, you can divide those by 2. So divide all these numbers by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So you'd be like that. 4 plus or minus 7I over 5. I mean, and you can even write it like, just so you know, you can even write it like it was 8 over 10, like I was saying, reduces to like 4/5. Your answer is really like 4/5 plus 7I over 5. And the other answer is 4/5 minus the 7/5 I. You can put the I. See, like one answer is like plus the 7. Oh, you can put these as fractions. That's another way you could write it. See, it's two imaginary answers with the I in it. You can put fractions like that, like 4 over 5 plus 7 over 5I, and 4 over 5 minus 7 over 5I. It's weird, isn't it? Yep, so that's imaginary answers for that one. That's what the problems are going to be like. It's quadratic formula. It's on the computer. It's on that Alex system. And so some of them at the end you got to reduce. That's why I wanted to do this one last example. Reducing, like divide everything by something. Reduce them all. And the plus or minus means there's two answers. Like one's plus this 7I over 5 and one's minus this 7I over 5. Yeah, I know it's quite a bit.